Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Erica, and in this video we are going to start on the pile of patterns and things that I wanted to make that I talked about in the last video of what my plans were. So first up is this one, which is Vogue 8574. It's one of the two that are not actually vintage patterns, but I love it and I want to make it. And it's with this beautiful fabric. I love this so much, and I have just enough, really just enough. I laid it out last night to look at it and see. I knew I didn't want to do the ankle length, but I knew I wanted it longer than this one. So about here, just under my knee, I guess. Anyway, I had to lay out the pattern pieces to make sure that I actually had enough to do that, and I have just enough. So I'm very happy. I love when I'm able to use up a bit of fabric and actually use it up and not have a weird random amount left over. This is a bit of fabric that I found at the thrift store a while ago, and it's actually from Hancock's, which is not in business anymore. It hasn't been in a while, but it hasn't been cut into, so I don't know how long ago someone purchased it and then donated it, but I'm pretty happy about it. So anyway, let's get to cutting. So I was very pleased with how much I was able to get out of this fabric. What I'm showing here is how much I had left, which was not much, but I was able to get the bodice pieces as well as the lining bodice pieces out of the fabric, which worked perfectly. And once it was all cut out, what I'm starting here is just the assembly of the top bodice. So this is the center front seam that I'm setting up now. There's the keyhole at the top so you don't sew the whole seam down, and then I sewed it together at the side seams with the back pieces, leaving the center back open because that's where the zipper is going to go. And then I just repeated that process with the lining pieces before I began to sew the lining bodice to the outside bodice. So that's the process I'm working on here. After that, I took it back over and marked the placement for the pleats that are going to go into the neckband of the front and the lining, and then basted them down. And I did them separately for the lining and the outside fabric. Okay, so the lining is ironed under for the seam allowance, and I need to go sew the arms, the front V, and the other arm, and then I will figure out what's next. Of course, my pins fell out. So I'm gonna go sew those and I'll be back. So the front and back are sewn together, and I clipped and trimmed the seam allowance on the curves, and then there was the row of understitching that went all along the lining. So you can see it a little bit there. And this is extremely important to not skip because it helps the front lay properly and keep the seam in the back. So that's along the arm, this middle point here, and I will say there, and the other arm, but let me come in here and show this, where these came together. The seam was clipped, and then I clipped it up in a V on the actual seam allowance. That way it would reduce bulk when you turned it for this point, and it worked quite nicely. That is also understitched, and I think that that turned out lovely. And the other arm. So the next thing I need to do is baste the top edges together. And in the instructions, I did a misstep and I went ahead and did the pleats separately, and it had me do them together. However, I'm not gonna go undo it. It doesn't make any bit of a difference to me. And so I'm gonna go ahead and leave those pleats in and then just baste the top edges together. I did pretty good. They're the same size, so I'm not having to stretch it all. So I'm gonna go pleat those up, and then I believe we start on the neckbands. This is where I'm tackling the neckband pieces. So like with the bodice part, I did the lining and the outside fabric from the same fabric, sewed them together at the side seams, and one of them is interfaced with just some fusible interfacing. And what I'm showing here is I'm finishing up, well, not finishing, I'm ironing that outer edge down, and because it's rounded like that, I have found that it's easier with certain fabrics to run a gathering stitch and pull it slightly so that it just helps it lay. It did take me a little bit longer to get it all the way around, but I think it looked a lot better than some of the others I've done where I didn't put that gathering stitch in. Once that was done, like I showed, I sewed together the band pieces at the inner neck edge and then clipped and trimmed the seam down, and then I used my pattern pieces here to mark where the bodice pieces go up inside the neckband. Okay, so I don't understand the order in which it gave me these instructions. This was not fun. I need to go trim that thread. But it told me to do this seam here. Oops, let me show it. This little seam on the outer edge of the neckband before it told me to go do the understitching, which I knew the understitching needed to be done. I don't know, I was just following the instructions. I should have gone with my gut because I did think about it, and then I was like, well, I guess it'll get to it. Anyway, I was able to manage it. It was very, very difficult to get as far into these places as I could, but I did. So now the next thing is I trimmed and clipped here and on the other side. Now I need to turn it right side out and make sure that all of my pressing is even along the rest of it, because this is where the bodice is gonna go in. So, gonna do that. Okay, I'm not currently sure where my battery died. I'm sure I will figure that out and pick it up later, but I'm gonna show where I am. So I got all of that turned and pressed, and now I have got it pinned in place to stitch it to the bodice, and all I did was literally slip the bodice pieces up into the band between the two edges and put a whole lot of pins so that make sure it does not shift, and then it goes all the way to the edge there, all the way to the edge there, and I'm just going to do a row of top stitch all the way around. Now the way the instructions have me do it is to put it in there and only sew it inside to this front neck band piece. However, it's going to be really tricky once I get to these junctions here where I've already sewn the seam. Honestly, if I were to do this pattern again, I would have gone ahead and sewn these in to the front before I did this. But anyway, I've never done this pattern before. I'll know for the next time because I really like this dress. However, I'm also totally fine with top stitching. And then what the instructions said to whip stitch this back band to it after sewing this. But because I'm totally fine with a row of top stitching, I'm not going to put a row of top stitching there. It's not needed, but I'm totally fine with one here. I'm just going to top stitch it all together, and it will go through both front and back, and then I won't have to whip stitch it. I love this little keyhole in the front. Love it. Okay, but it's looking adorable. I am really excited about it. I am going to have to, again, stop and take another break because I have a couple errands that I have to run, and hopefully pick back up with the skirt later this afternoon. All right. So it's on. Top stitching is done. I think it looks just fine. Very pretty. I'm very excited. So I have the back skirt panel here, and this is where I need to sew up to in the center of the back. Now, I am not going to turn this right sides together because I'm actually going to do a French seam. With this, I don't want to have to use the serger for this. It would be fine. I may end up for another seam, but I don't see a point in it in the back seam, so that's what I'm going to do. I might end up just doing a regular seam on the sides because that's where the pocket is going to go. I don't know. I've never done a French seam with a pocket, and I'm not sure this is the project that I want to try it on. We will see. Partly because I just want this done quickly, and I know how to do that quickly. I know that it's not necessarily difficult, but this is what I'm going to do. For right now, the back is going to be a French seam, and I've marked where the pocket goes here, and I need to actually go mark the front two panels of the skirt and mark the pleats as well. So I'm going to get all of that done, and then I will check back. Right here, I'm just very quickly showing that I marked the pleats and went ahead and stitched them down with a top stitch on the skirt portion, and then got the side seams with the pockets sewn, pinned and then sewn. And they're shown here wrong sides together because I'm doing these in a French seam, despite me saying earlier that I wasn't going to attempt that. So that's what I'm showing here. Okay, I tried to show it, but I'm not sure how successful I was. I didn't really have the ability to film most of this because I ended up having kids in here, but I did get the skirt put together, so it's mostly done. There was the French seams for the center front and the center back, and I really like doing that for fabrics like this because I just feel like it's a lot sturdier. And so I did those, and I did end up doing the French seam for the side seams with the pockets as well. I did figure that out. It did not take very long. It is not hard. And then these pockets go all the way up to the under bust band, which is good because they need this stability to hold them up were you to put anything in them. So they're very, very long on this pattern, but you only, this much of it is sealed up, and then here's the pocket. So there's the two pockets, and then I basted them toward the front because when you put the skirt on, obviously your hand's going to go this way. There are no darts in the back, and then this is the center back where the zipper is going to go with the bodice. Now, so the only thing I have left on the skirt is to hem it, but I don't want to do that until it is attached to the bodice. And basically that's just going to be right sides together with the bodice front, and then the back that I pressed down earlier will come down, and then that will be sewn closed, encasing that raw edge around the waist seam. I'm just going to call it the waist. However, this fabric is a little bit see-through in the sun, and with just one layer. So I've been trying to figure out what I wanted to do because I don't want to add hardly any bulk to it, but I don't really want to have to wear a slip with it to not feel like people can just see through. You know, I'm making these for the summer. I live in the South, and it just gets so hot, and the slips aren't comfortable anyway during the summer, because that's one of the issues I'm having with a lot of the dresses that I find in the store, is I do have to wear a slip with them, and it's not breathable. It's very, it's slick, and so, you know, it's obviously not like real fiber silk or anything, so it's not breathable, and it gets all sweaty and sticky to my legs, and I absolutely hate it. So I've been going back and forth on what I wanted to do, and I do have this very lightweight linen, and it has a lot of the same drape that this does, and I don't feel like it would add too much bulk. So what I'm going to do is, I'm not going to cut it to the same width as the front waistband because I don't want to have to pleat it up, but I'm going to measure what my current waistband is with it all pleated and basted down, and then I'm going to cut a smaller skirt that's not as long as this, that has this waist measurement. I'll probably do it, I don't know, I'll probably try to either do it in one piece or a front and a back, so that, I don't know, I just, again, on the bulk, what I'm not wanting is, I'm not wanting to add a whole nother seam here, because I would probably want to French seam this as well. I may try to just do it and cut it a little bit flared with this waistband's width, so that way I can just have one seam in it. I don't know. That will definitely be in the center back. I'm going to play with it and see, but I think that's what I'm going to do, because this will give me one more layer to prevent it from being able to be see-through, and it's linen, so it will actually be breathable, and I won't have to wear that awful slip with it. So that's what's next. That's what I'm going to try to figure out right now, and I want to figure it out now because I obviously want to encase that top edge into the waist seam with the skirt, so that really does need to be next. So we're gonna get with that. Okay, I think I have a solution. So here is the front panel of the, I'm gonna call it a slip just for ease, and then the back panel. And what I did was I measured the distance between the two side seams from on the front, and then I made the front panel go like about 1.5 inches past that towards the back for the measurement of the top of the front slip. That way the seam will be offset. It's still going to be technically a side seam, just not in the exact same location as the other side seam, so it won't be as bulky. And then for the back, I did the rest of the distance minus seam allowances to sew these two together, because I will be doing French seams for this as well. And the only other thing is, for this back panel, I will need to put the slit down the middle where the zipper will go to match the slit in this. So right now I'm gonna go iron these out, go get them seamed up on the sides, and then we'll start the pinning process, and I'm gonna baste it to this. Probably baste it before I make that slit. That way I make sure it's in the exact location that I want it, and then I will make the slit and then proceed with the dress as normal. After getting the slit portion basted to the edge of the skirt, then I pinned right sides together, not with just the outside of the bodice, not the lining section, sewed that down, ironed that seam up, and then went and pinned the lining down, and then ran a top stitch around the outside to finish up that seam. So I got the inside sewn down. I pinned it all the way around. I think I showed that. And then I came on the outside and stitched it down. And I am totally fine. It's not gonna, there it goes. With that little row of stitching. I actually like the look of top stitching a lot. So after that, I basted down the zipper edges, which I'm trying to show here, with their lining. And then I pinked the edges, pinking showed the edges, because they're just gonna get folded down under the zipper, and I just want to make sure that they're not gonna really fray more. So, and then I basted the zipper seam closed, because I'm going to do, I did that to make sure that everything was lined up correctly and it's good. And I'm gonna go pin the zipper in, which I have a yellow invisible zipper here that I'm gonna use, and sew that in. And I might do a hook and eye at the top. I'm not, probably I will do a hook and eye at the top. So anyway, the next step is to go sew in the zipper, and then I have the hemming left, and then this dress is done. Not too much to say about the zipper insertion other than just right here I whipped down the outer edge, and then I ended up taking that whip stitch all the way up to the top, just to encase the raw edge completely under the zipper, and then I took it over to the machine and stitched it down. It's not perfect, but it's done. And then after I finished that, I just did a turn and turn hem on the bottom of the skirt. I did take it over before I started it and ironed down that first edge, and then that just made the second turn easy, and I didn't even need pins, and it worked out beautifully. And with that, I believe the dress is done. All right, here she is. I really am pleased with it. It's just as flowy as I wanted. I absolutely love the keyhole and the neckline. I love that neckline on me. And yeah, it's just light and breezy and airy, and it'll be a cool summer dress this summer. I'm so pleased. I did have to end up cutting off some of the length I had added because I had added too much. But that's okay. I'd rather add too much rather than too little. So yeah, and my slip worked. Let me see if I can show you. I am very happy with that. It is also very comfortable, and it does not mess with the breeziness of the dress. So yeah, it's done, yay! Took me a little bit longer than I wanted to because of some interruptions, but very, very happy. And I will definitely be using this pattern again because I love the dress style. Really love the dress style. And pockets are perfect, and it has them, and I'm pretty excited. It's got them on both sides. All right, for a little wrap up, I first wanted to say I have this much of fabric left, which is really not much. So I don't know what I'll be doing with that. I might have a little fun with it. But the dress itself, I really couldn't be more pleased with. I love it. This is not the bra I will be wearing with it when I wear it. This is just what I had on right now. But this neckline I really, really love on me. I love the keyhole detail here. I thought about putting a little bit of trim under the bust line and just decided that for this particular dress, it was already really busy and it had the casual dressy, if that's a thing, look that I was going for, and I thought that any more trim would probably just, I don't know, be too much for what I wanted for this. And I love it. It is so comfortable. And yeah, definitely will be a reused pattern for sure. So thoughts I will say for the slip that I added in. When I cut out the 2 panels of linen, I cut them at an angle, so the top of the piece was the size of the waistband, but the bottom flared out because obviously I wanted it to be able to go over my hips. However, when I put the dress on after I'd gotten the zipper on and done the hem and all of that, I figured out that it actually was not enough in the waist, and so it pulled. I was able to get it on and zip up fine, but it pulled the under the bust down to the bottom of the zipper super, super obviously and tightly close to me in a way I really, really didn't like. So I went in and added a gore of linen more and then just whip stitched that particular place at the top to the waistband rather than ripping out waistband seams and then redoing it. It's fine. It's a dress for me, and it's a span of about maybe 2 inches. So you can barely tell unless you're really inspecting the garment for blemishes. Which, if anybody does that to my dresses, I don't know what to say. I did a turn and turn hem, and it is beautiful, and yeah, I'm just really, really happy. I've been really struggling with finding good summer dresses that I would be comfortable enough in to just wear around the house and not when I'm dressing up for a particular occasion, and this really, really fits the bill, yet it is nice enough that I could wear it to an occasion if I wanted to. I hope that you enjoyed this video and you stick around for the rest of these projects. I'm still working on getting started on the historically inspired one. We're gonna go with that because it's upholstery fabric that's probably not historically accurate timepiece wise, and that's fine with me. It's gonna be pretty regardless. But I did figure out I don't have quite enough material, so I'm gonna have to source some more, and very cheaply. So as I've had time running other errands and passing other thrift stores, I've been hopping around and seeing if I could find anything, and so far have not had any luck yet. But the thing with thrift stores is you can't give up. So anyway, feel free to like and subscribe, and I will see you for the next summer dress.